Hey everyone, my name is Melanie, Math Content Specialist here at Zinkers. Let's take a look at another digital SAT question and how we can use Desmos to help us solve it. This question says, the function f is defined by f of x equals a times the square root of x plus b, where a and b are constants. In the xy plane, the graph of y equals f of x passes through the point negative 24, 0, and f of 24 is less than 0. Which of the following must be true? And we have four options here. So definitely maybe a more complicated type of question. My gut instinct whenever I see a function with some unknown kind of abstract variables here like a and b is to use Desmos for this. We know that Desmos allows us to kind of play with those variables by adding in sliders. I think that's going to be my strategy here. So I'll bounce over to Desmos and just type in that function exactly how I see it. So f of x equals the square root of or a times the square root of x plus b. And then it is prompting me to add a slider for a and b. I'll do that. I'll hit all. And here what it's done is just initially define a and b as equal to 1. I'm going to play around with that in a second. I'm also noticing that my question here is giving me some other pieces of information. So I may not know what a and b are exactly, but I do know that the graph, for whatever these values are, it has to pass through this point here, negative 24, 0. And I also know that f of 24 has to be less than 0, has to be negative. So these are kind of the two constraints that I'm working with in order to hopefully match a true statement with one of these answer choices here. So what I'm going to do is put these constraints, if you will, into Desmos, which means I'm going to type in the point negative 24, 0, really just so that I can visualize that point. Here it is over here, the purple point. And then I'm also going to put in f of 24. Here, what it's telling me is that the value of f of 24 is equal to 5, given the fact that I've defined a and b to be equal to 1. So now what I'm going to do is try to play around with a and b using these sliders so that I get these two constraints to be true. I want my graph to pass through this point, and I also want f of 24 to be negative. And you'll see here, if I move b around, what I'm getting is a change in this value of f of 24. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to start with a and see what a does. You can see here, a is just like bouncing, reflecting this graph over the x-axis. And then b here is moving my function left and right. So these are kind of the transformations that are happening. And Desmos is great for this because I can play around and see that visualization. So what I'm going to do is move my function to the left, actually, so that it passes through this purple point. And what you'll notice is when I bounce it all the way to 10, it doesn't quite go far enough. I'm going to just put in a number, a bigger number, like 50. And then now when I kind of bounce back, I can move my graph over to the left even more. So I'm going to keep moving it, keep moving it, keep moving it until it looks like it passes through this point here, negative 24, 0, which it does. If I zoom in a little bit more, we are passing through that point, so that's great. So I'm going to leave b equals 24 alone. B has done its job. B, I know, is moving it left and right. It's made it so that it passes through this point. So what I've effectively done is just check off this constraint here. I've satisfied that constraint. Now let's move over to this value of f of 24. I know that needs to be negative. As it stands now, it's positive 10-ish. But if I move a little bit, here it is at f of 24 is equal to 0, has to be less than 0. So if I move it a little bit more, all I've done here is make a just the tiniest bit negative, and I have a negative value for f of 24. So now I can leave everything as is and just see what I'm now working with based on my answer choices. So I can work through each one. Based on these constraints here, based on my value of a and my value of b, do I know that f of 0 is equal to 24? Well, I don't know. Let's plug in f of 0. I know that that's not true. There's going to be no way to move this value of a to get it equal to exactly 24. And we know that doesn't necessarily have to be true as well, right? So again, the question's asking which of the following must be true. This does not have to be true. So I know that A is not going to be correct. F of 0 does it have to be equal to negative 24? again, I can just plug in f of 0 here and see, no, my values of a and b as they stand are enough to satisfy my two initial constraints. It's not true that f of 0 has to be equal to negative 24. So same thing for a, doesn't have to be true. Let's look at the value of c. As it stands here, again, a and b are satisfying all of my constraints. Does it have to be true that a is greater than b? Actually, no, right? In this situation, we have that b is greater than a. So I actually know that, no, doesn't have to be true. What I do know, though, is that b has to be greater than a. In other words, a is less than b. Again, here I can see a is equal to -1, b is equal to 24. That satisfies my constraints. I know that situation as it stands has to be true. So therefore, we would select answer choice D for this question. Is there another question that you want to see? Make sure to leave a comment down below, and don't forget to like and follow our channel for more digital SAT content.